Hi, Ben from Ben Construct, and we're going to try and make some logic out of the setting out of your bench dogs. Let's get going. So one look at this bench, and it might lead you to wonder, is this a bit of an overkill? So I need to explain. Let's take it from the top. We need to start where the vices are on your bench, and then we'll work our way on. But it should be realized that in the working area, the area's use is, as you can see, 85% in the red area, only 10% in the end vice area, and 5% makes everywhere else. So accordingly, that is the structure of your bench. And just want to make one thing clear. This bench is set up for a right-handed person. So it'll be the opposite way around, which would apply if you're left-handed. You put the face vise on the right leg, and the end vise then goes back to the opposite side. I'm right-handed, and that's why this bench is oriented in this fashion. The location of your vices is going to govern where your bench dogs are going to go. So typically, your main vice, which is the face vice, should sit somewhere over your leg, and if possible, as tight as you can to the corner. And you'll see why there shortly. And then if we go to your end vice, this one should not really be in the middle of the bench. It should be tight up to the edge, as this one is, yeah? Now the reason for that is this would be your main course of bench dogs, and you don't want to have to lean over the bench. The second row of bench dogs here are for panels, which you can work on the top of the bench. The more you lean over, the more strain you put on your back. So if you've got mostly of the time, you're going to have long, thin pieces of timber right down to the bench if necessary, and that's what governs that one. And that's why that vice comes out the end, but not just for that. If you're cutting a piece of timber, two reasons. One, if you're cutting the timber, it allows you to cut right tight into the vice where the wood is held strongest. The second one is if you're working or planing a piece of wood, it allows you to have your work right on the edge, not leaning over the top. And so that's for the end vice, that's your main course of action. But it does double up, you see, for using panels, as you'll see here. Okay, so that's the location of the end vice. Likewise with the face vise, you want to try and keep it somewhere near to the edge, and then you're not going to get too much vibration for when you're sawing. The other main thing to have is to make sure you get your face vise directly over where your leg is, and then when you're beating down on mortises or anything like that, you know, you're going to have the leg underneath the vise. That's the best position for that. Looking at the actual position of the dog holes in the face vise, or the end vise for that matter, one thing hopefully you can see quite clearly is that this is a non-racking vise, so meaning that the metal goes all the way to the top of it, and that, as you can see, is the edge of the metal bracket down the side. When you place your dogs in the top of that, as you can see, it's firmly behind the metal bracket. It's not out the side, and you will put a lot of pressure on the vise and cause a lot of racking if you put it out the side. Likewise, if when you're facing the timber up on the front of the vise, you shoot it miles out here and then put a dog hole out here, that is going to cause you a great deal of racking and not a good idea. I often see that, and the same with the top of it. As you can see there, there's fairly minimal amount of timber on the top. It's enough to keep your tools away from the metal face of the top. And you don't really want to move the structure of the vise, you know, the carriage bars and the screw far away from you know, the bit that's actually gripping your work. So I often see this, far too often, massive timbers out the side and a dog placed on the end of it. You know, if you're going to do that, you're going to need to have all chocks to try and brace the other side of it. Not a great idea, guys. Keep the dogs reasonably placed, and you know, you'll find that it works an awful lot better for you. Both vises exactly the same. You know, just look down at that there now, and as you can see, they're firmly behind the metal of it, and it gives the vise a chance to work properly. Okay, and let's get on to the actual setting out now for the dogs in the bench. To the get-go. So the one overriding feature which is going to govern how far apart your dogs are is how much the movement there is in the vise after it's been faced with timber. On this one, we've got 8 inches or just slightly over, and that means that none of our dog holes are going to be further than 8 inches. In fact, in reality, 7.5 inches, a little bit more, 7.75 inches, probably maximum is your spacing for your dog holes. So if you push your vise back into there, first hole should probably be about 7 inches there. And then after that, you're going to go 8 and 8 to finish the bench. There is a couple of curveballs in this. One is that there's a plate underneath the vise, which basically runs to about there, not pretty much the same width as the metal on the top of the vise. On this bench, it's a split level bench, as I show you now, as you can see. So I can't have any holes which are on the joint there. So yeah, I am slightly compromised that I can't go too near the joint, but at the same time, as I said, so you've got 8 inches of movement. Your best bet is probably go 7.5 to the end, and accordingly, as you'll see there, just under that 7.5, just under that again, and 8 inches takes you to the end. Nothing is going to catch every size of timber. I have to say that now, but that's one thing to watch out for. And there's a different issue which I'll tell you about with the end vise, which I've seen a few people get wrong there. It's easy in hindsight, but I'll let you know just now. Other things you can do, because there's a metal plate underneath here. My preferred way of working the actual dogs themselves is push up. So you basically make them 1 inch longer than the bench. You can push them up from underneath, cut a nice flat face in it so you don't bruise your work. And as you can see there, put a little bullet catch on it, and it'll give you a friction, and you can set your dogs as to whatever height you prefer them to, down to 0 as such. With the ones which have the plate underneath them, instead of doing the through dog, what I've done is I've used the pop-up version, which again has the flat face cut on it, and it also has a bullet catch in. The bullet catch always allows you, that's a drawback from the pop-up dogs. They normally either sit just above where it pushes you up, so you have no adjustment. The bullet catch means you can adjust it. And just so everyone's clear on that, with the pop-up dogs, you've got they call them push to pull catches, and basically just push your dog down and it springs back up at you. And then when you want to push your dog down, that's it. So that's what goes on there. You don't have to drill the whole way through the top of the bench top. In these cases, all you need to do is to avoid the actual vise bolts beneath them. So that's it. And again, if you turn them upside down, obviously you get no dust when you're not using them. But very good. Again, totally adjustable. and that's how that one goes. So when you come to your, your plate or your vise, that's that. Okay, onto the end vise then. So with the end vise, which is a quick release as well, let's have a look. Now on this vise, we've only got 6 inches of movement in it, and accordingly that's going to govern our centres for this vise. So that said, we've got other things to compromise us, such as where do the legs come off, and as such I could of course do the pop-up dogs over the legs, but I chose not to, and I'll set out the 6 inches spans to miss out on them clashing with the legs, and we'll have a little walk around and have a look at that. The same there. So on the main working edge of the vise, which is this, we've taken pretty much all the way down to the bottom, and if one thing you'll notice here now as well, if I put that down there, there's no dog anywhere near the 6 inches in the vise. Well, one thing I knew is I was going to put intermediate dogs on this end of the bench for catching small stuff, so I totally ignored the 6 inches there. I went a lot smaller and adjusted it so the dog spacings would miss the legs, and I put an intermediate dog in here, which is not even 6 inches, it's 5 inches there. So that's how I defeated that kind of no man's land that which you're trying to avoid with your dog holes. You come to a timber and it won't fit anywhere, and you have to put in chocks and mess around with that kind of stuff. Okay, so we'll have a go around then. I'll show you that, why and what does happen if you hit your legs. Quick side note on that, guys, just a tape measure and a pencil is quite accurate enough to set these out, if your bench is square. And I did actually use a large builder square to assist me on that, and but only really as a double check on the tape measure, and that's all I used, a tape measure and a pencil, and quick check with the builder square. It was got them all bang on. Okay, here we go, just to see what happens with the protrusions. As you can see, that one's very tight there, still working, but the way they operate is you push them and they've got a lovely friction fit, so you can get whatever height you want. But if you get that wrong, obviously you're going to clash, and we've missed out. And I'm going to notice one thing with you, and that is that with the edge dogs, we continue the whole way down the bench, nearly till we hit to the face vise. And obviously then there's no reason to go through the face vise, because you can easily pop your dogs up here and you've got dogs nearly 6 inches apart. I have popped an extra one on the end to just manage the longest piece of timber, because there is no other dog past that point. Okay, and then with the opposite side, which are for my kind of wide panels or wide pieces of timbers, I've only taken them down about 800 or 900, what's that, about 30 odd inches, and I've left it bare. Should I want them in later, I may drill them if I find there's a common piece of wood that I need to trap at that, which is that width, which is going to be unusual. So I've only taken them down to like a fairly common size. What is that? I've taken it down to 27 inches there, width of the door type thing, or just under, and that takes care of that. So let's go and have a look at these small dogs we've put in here, and how they work. The intermediate dog holes, which are this one and this one primarily we're talking about. First of all, I can hear a few suggestions coming my way, so let's just set it all up here. And so timber this size, which is fairly common there. What have we got? Okay, we've got a 4 3/4 inch timber, 120 millimeters. Now, A lot of people are going to say you can trap that in the vise. Yes, and a timber of this thickness, yeah, you can. Exactly. You can trap it in the vise. You are going to have to fiddle around to get it level and everything. But what happens then when you come to a thin piece of timber like this now, yeah? Now, is that really going to not wobble or be crushed or bow when you squeeze that up in the vise? And that's why I like it flat on the top. And as you'll see with this now, pop my dogs up, land that in beside it, make sure the dogs are below the top, especially if I'm going to plane it or something like that now. And then slam her in, dogs again, just below the surface. And that's what I love about these, you know, these push-up dogs, you know, they're so reliable. Down nice and tight, so it's flat, supported from the bottom. And then away you go. You can plane away all day on that now. Now that is very handy for cooking. Thin piece of timber. If that was the same width, I can lay that on the top. It's going to stay flat while I'm planing it. So that's why I like the intermediate ones, and that's what that's all about. Okay, guys, hope you appreciate that. And while we're here, I'm just going to show you quickly. Not many people have these, but I find them quite useful, and that is your horizontal dogs, which I've set up in a push to pull fashion. So push it and you pull it, and it's got the little bullet catches on it to allow you to set it at whatever size you want. And I've got them, you can see this, either side of the vise, and so I can set them up there. And I've got them I've just got 4 of them in the bench, one halfway down, which is very useful for long timbers, and one at the end. So just a quick demo for that one then. I've got a kind of reasonably long timber here. Pop it on that, slam her in. Everything's level for you and playing away. If you find the ends a little bit wobbly, grab yourself a hold fast. People have seen this before, and you can just pull out your other horizontal dog and the magnet, slam in your hold fast. There she goes, and that timber isn't going nowhere. Okay, there we are. So in summary, before we do a couple of little caveats at the end, yeah, whatever your vise extends to, be it 6 inches or the 8-inch with the larger vise, drop the centers of the dog holes to slightly less than those distances, and with the end vise certainly on the end of the bench, all the way down the bench pretty much until you hit the face vise. And then when you come to the face vise all the way through, it shows you at the start 85% of your functionality is in this area here. So full lev, and use that trick of missing your legs by shuffling up intermediate and shorter than you think dog holes next to the vise are very helpful, I can guarantee you. Don't let that worry you. Okay, we'll move on and do a couple of caveats of how you bore the holes. A couple of little tricks here there might be helpful. Okay, with the thickness and the shape of the dowels themselves, I'd always go for round dowels for sure. I'm not sure I'm taken by the square dowels. They do look very nice, but when you've got these lovely other attachments you can use, such as a hold fast, nearly all of these attachments, you've got other little vices on the market. Veratas do it, some of them, and they all fit down round holes. Once you go to square holes, you're going to have an issue then with those. I did, unfortunately, and it was a mistake, use a 15mm dowel on my my vices, primarily because I didn't actually have enough thickness of timber on there to take a 20mm dowel or a 3/4 inch dowel. There are 25mm dowels and there are attachments for 25mm dowels. 20mm dowels I've found quite adequate, and even the 15mm dowels, I haven't had a big problem with them. I just suspect they're a little bit weak. So the 3/4 inch dowel I do recommend. I would not go for the square holes. I do see them around a lot. They do look very attractive, but functionality wise, not great. When you come to drilling your holes, now one of these jigs is which is the drill press, mobile drill press. They're a godsend, and you can get them for $30 to 200 plus. So you can go overboard with these, or not necessarily overboard. It depends on what you're using them for. They're worth getting even a cheap jig for drilling the holes. It keeps everything square and it's lovely and quick on the setup. Go into the drill bits themselves. Now these Fisher bits, which are excellent for giving you lovely crisp openings when you start, are excellent. But even though they come with an extension piece, or you can buy an extension piece, they come in these nice sets with different sizes, which I have a use for, but they're not actually the greatest for drilling all the way through. Funnily enough, the one that comes out on top is your basic spade bit, and it is worth getting a nice new one, and also marrying it up with your dowel thickness. And with that, you can actually just take a file, if it's slightly bigger, and just grind the edge carefully to bring it so it suits that. It saves a lot of shaving there later to get your dowels to fit in the hole. Okay, once you've drilled your holes, a great thing, I don't know if you possibly can't see it on this one so clearly, let's try that one. Pop that down. If you see that the edges are slightly rounded, and for that I found the smallest little a convex router piece in over the top, put it to the finest amount, and just give it a buzz around the holes. It stops the chipping out that occurs around the size of the holes. If you leave that perfectly flat, you're going to get little splinters out once the dowel works. And when I did do the holes, I did use the Fisher bit, if you look into this hole, to start each hole, so it guaranteed me a lovely crisp outer edge with no flakes. But then once I went in there, 10mm, transferred straight over to the spade bit. And then if you're careful with that, and one of the beauties of this, they've got these little stop settings, which that one's up the top, it actually goes underneath there, and you can stop your spade dowel from going all the way through, and you can set it perfectly, as you can see there. So it just kisses out the outer end and shows you where the hole is, and you can finish that hole then the opposite end back with your Fisher bits, and it gives you the center of those. So that's how I drill the holes. Can't recommend the drill press. It's a it's a definite, if you're going to do your own dogs on a bench. Okay, guys, and that's about it for today. Thanks for listening to me. Much appreciated. And bye for now. That's Ben Construct.
And if anyone asks you where the dogs go, they go in the lower tool tray, and that's why it's called a bench dog layout.